Hey guys, it's Raven here, Tactical Edge, and basically today we're going over the Leviathan V3, how to install it, how it operates, and basically, yeah, everything there is to do with it. So basically, what you want to start off with is basically a clean gearbox. So this one has a bit of grease on it. It is a stock gearbox. You're just going to take out all the parts basically inside, give it a clean, and then I'll start the installation. The V3 is more suited to your FALs, your G36s, anything like an AK as well, and many more different blasters. So basically for the installation, you'll get a sheet of stickers that will come in the box. Basically this is basically for your optical sensor, for your selector. You've got a fully white with stripes and then black at the end. Might be a little bit hard to see with the light on, but basically this just helps your Mosfet detect where your selector is, and basically tells it, hey, is it an auto, semi, or safe? Other than that, you basically just want to give it a clean, get your Mosfet. There's a couple of plastic washers that will go on this back piece here. This is actually your sector optical sensor here for your sector gear, which is this little gear right here. And basically this will tell the Mosfet how many spins, how many cycles, stuff like that, and tell it when to stop as well when cycling. So if you've got it set to binary, 3-round burst, stuff like that, you can basically tell it when to stop. So yeah, we'll get into the installation now. The easiest way to do that is literally just get the Mosfet, turn it on its side, slide her up into the gearbox through that little slot, pull it all the way through, and now just maneuver it back in where you need it, just like so. Then you're going to grab this little small screw here. You're going to put it to the front of the Leviathan. And just hand tight. You don't want to be pressing this down. You don't want to break the Leviathan. Mosfets at the end of the day are expensive, and if you've broken any, it does get expensive very, very quickly. And then with that little plastic washer just here on the back of the Mosfet, you want to grab your other screw, which looks just like this. You're going to place it to the rear hole on the Mosfet, line up the threads, screw it in, just a hand tight. Now that plastic washer is essential, otherwise you will short out the Mosfet without that washer. That's pretty much it for the Mosfet installation. Basically what you do is you get your selector once it has the stickers lined up. See if we can do this without dropping gears out. Basically you're going to line it up on the back here, which my fingers are extremely cold, so I'm having a lot of trouble with. Slide it all the way forward, drops in just like that, and slide back. Now your selector plate's on. This will be able to tell the Mosfet when you're safe, semi, and auto. All right, other than that, basically we just put it back together. There is a little buffer pad that does go on the back of the safety mechanism for your trigger as well. Just be aware. Basically this is to stop it from interfering with anything, as well as it does help the Mosfet detect as well. Too easy. Basically you're just going to line her up. This little spring here is going to drop down. There's a little hole back here. You're going to drop it in. Then line everything up pretty much. It's a bit easier if you just grab your trigger, place it forward, and then you place this little piece on the back. And just be careful how it goes on. You don't want to be putting it on backwards, like I just did 2 seconds ago. Just be careful with this trigger spring. It does get a little finicky every now and again. If it's not going to play nice, we'll leave it till the end and put everything back in. With the classic Army FAL, just check your shimming. From stock standard, it is 5mm on top, sorry, 0.5 mil on top, 0.5 mil on the bottom. What you want to do is you want to change that so there's only 0.2 mil on the bottom. That way it allows for the MOSFET to pick it up correctly, makes it pretty much work as new. Otherwise, you will run into issues where it will not detect the sector and the MOSFET will just not work. All right, spin these gears around so it makes dropping in our piston a lot easier. Basically, when you're working around this MOSFET as well, guys, just be a bit careful. It is electrical components. You don't want to be, stabbing screwdrivers and stuff into there or dropping screws into it. Otherwise, you're going to have a very bad day. Right. Now I get to give this trigger another go in 2 seconds. Let's get this return spring back on. So once your return spring's back on, just make sure everything's lined up. Make sure you do not lose any shims off the sector gear if you only pull the sector gear out. If you pull all the gears out, just make sure you don't lose any shims whatsoever. Otherwise, you'll be sitting here for the next 15 minutes re-shimming. Yeah, so. So yeah, guys, just take your time with the trigger as well. You don't want to be forcing it in. Last thing you do again is breaking this MOSFET. I know the V3s are, I think, a little bit more pricey than the V2s possibly. But they also don't have a top board, so don't quote me on that one. So guys, once you get your trigger spring back in, it is a bit finicky. I just fiddle around with it for about 5 minutes to get it in. Basically, you want this back piece just like this with the buffer pad coming up. Just watch out it doesn't hit the sector when you're putting it back in. This will be corrected once you put the other top of the gearbox housing back on. Basically, we'll push everything back into alignment. So other than this, basically, on some of these valves, they do have a quick change spring guide. So if yours does have a quick change spring guide, you can just leave the spring out. In my unfortunate case, I've got to struggle with this now. So basically, you want to slide your spring back in. You're going to push forward. Now this is a very stiff spring, and if you're not careful, it will come out and give you a black eye or break something. So just hold it down very tightly as you put it back together. Otherwise, you're going to be like one of the boys downstairs and be absolutely scared. All right. Now we get the fun part of trying to push this back in together without losing a shim. Just like that. So that's what I was talking about before. Don't lose your shims or else you can have a really bad day. Ooh. So this tappet does not like to sit pretty right now. So we're going to attempt to put this shell back on. We should just be able to hold basically down the cylinder. That should be just enough to hold everything down for us. Slide it over, down, move your finger slowly. Let's push the gearbox forward. You're going to line these trigger holes back up after you get all your gears lined up. So pull it back here. All right, so after you acquire a small screwdriver and don't leave it downstairs like I did, you're basically going to push your anti-reversal latch, all your gears back into place. Make sure it doesn't move any of the shims. I'm going to push down and just move that trigger section over. Let's make sure everything's pushed down nice and tight. Just fiddle around with these gears. Quick 1.5 seconds. There we go. So click in nice and tight, just push back on your trigger till it clicks and then falls in this slot just here. Basically, that is your gearbox back together. Now, all you want to do is chuck in your screws. Make sure I've got everything there. So with the FAL, there's a couple of quick screws. There is literally nothing else to it. It's one of my favorite boxes to work on. Other than that, wonderful, wonderful spring at the back that tries to kill you. So you're just going to screw it up. Now there is a metal sleeve that goes on the top of the gearbox. We're going to put that on last. Drop one of your, so you've actually got 2 long screws, which I have probably moved. One of mine. I'll find it, it's all good. It's basically medium length screws. One in the back here, one in the front just here. This shorter screw will go on the front hull. So by order, just for anyone trying to follow along with this, your medium length, shorter screw just at the front there. Your 2 longer screws will go back here, and that's for the motor housing. All right, let's screw these up. And just be careful not to knock the gearbox. You do not want this thing exploding in your hands, especially if you don't have that quick change spring guide. Again, as I said, anyone with a quick change spring guide, you're gonna have a lot easier of a day. All you're gonna really have to fiddle around is this little trigger housing. That should be all the screws tightened. Just double check that they're all hand tight. Then you're gonna get your metal sleeve. I'm gonna slide it on the back here. So it goes up the top here. You're gonna slide it all the way to the back. Might have to put a bit of pressure in it. Just be a bit careful. It is a metal piece. Don't put all your pressure onto your thumb, so like that. I've got pretty thick skin, so I'm fine. But for anyone with softer hands, just watch out, they might cut you open. All right. Let's get this motor in, and now I have to remember how it goes. Should just drop in like that, so positive facing up. Slides in like that. 1 screw. Tighten her up nice and tight. Alright, so once you locate your last screw and don't leave it downstairs like I did, chuck her in, push down, screw her up. Pretty much that is how you install a Leviathan. Basically now we're going to show you a few things on the app as well, and just how she fires and how to troubleshoot if you do have any issues.
So guys, moving on to the actual application for the Leviathan. So when you start up the Leviathan app, you can find it on your app store for the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Basically, you'll come to this home screen whenever you open up the application. You'll hit select device straight up. This will, and then make sure you have a battery plugged into your Leviathan Mosfet, so it will actually have power and actually register a Bluetooth signal. So this one here is Leviathan OP. This is actually the one in the V2. This is a V2 Leviathan, but it's the exact same process for a V3 as well. So we're going to connect to that. We're going to type in our password. The stock password is 1234. You can either change that if you want. We're going to remember password if I have to do any more work on this. I'm going to hit no for changing default gun password. You can if you'd like. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into a few settings. So this is your home screen. This is how you program the MOSFET. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll have rate of fire, active braking, precock. Active braking basically is just the MOSFET telling the motor going, hey, you've spun enough, stop. You can change your rate of fire, so how many rounds it does a second, as well as your precock. That's really helpful in semi. Basically, it will precock the piston for you, so that your semi is really, really responsive. You've also got delay between shots. We don't need that unless you're doing like a 500 FPS DMR, which isn't really applicable for Gelblaster. Go down, never change the electronic fuse. It should always be at 100 amps. Low battery indicator. This will most likely be run on 11.volt. So if you click on that, so we're going to put it to 11.1 volt. Again, you can keep this off if you want. It's up to your discretion. Now, with external input and output, this is kind of where people get a little bit stuck with these MOSFETs. If you actually have a look at the user manual while you're doing this, or if you read it before the instructions, installing it, sorry. If you actually go to external output and you hit, so by default be off, if you hit motor, this will actually turn your mag priming on. So every time you pull the trigger, your mag will prime and push gels up. through the magazine for you. That's pretty much it for this settings. You do have virtual magazines and stuff, so you can set like a limit on how much ammunition this blaster will fire before you physically have to put a new magazine in. You can also save different settings. So if I want to save a speedball setup, I can hit save as and speed QB. If I want to do it for an outdoor setting and I need, you know, burst fire or repetitive auto, I can hit save as outdoor GSA field, you know. Other than that, if we scroll over to the next tab on the right hand side up the top, this will actually be your sensor check. So as you can see, we have our sensor check and error log. So this will actually show us our error log for the Leviathan. Now you can see here, this is when we were messing around with it. Basically this is just motor disconnect or sector gear hasn't been censored. Make sure you shim the sector gear in your gearbox so it actually activates your sector sensor. So what we're going to do is you're going to hear a blaster fire in the background as we do have it hooked up. Basically, I'm going to show you how these work. So basically, if you flick your selector to semi, it will come up on the app. So you can see semi is lit up there. Auto is also lit up, and then you're going to see cycle and trigger light up in a second. So you can see those light up every time I hit semi. Same thing with auto. So we'll chuck into auto, pull the trigger. So yeah, you can see that light up there. You also have your calibration, optical selector calibration. So basically this goes through how to basically calibrate all your sensors. This is already set up, so I'm not going to cover that one. That is more of an advanced piece. You can just drop these in from stock if you'd like, or if you're a bit more advanced, you can actually calibrate the selector. So if you have a look how many shots this has done, so this has done 1800 shots. On power up, it's only done 29 for net pass. If you head over to stats, basically this is your rate of fire. This is doing 22 rounds per second. You've got rate of fire in minutes as well, so 1333.3. You've got last trigger pull shot, so I did a burst of auto for 14 rounds. Precock time 0 seconds, semi cycle time is 46 milliseconds, auto cycle time is 45 milliseconds, motor start current is 179.8 amps, your semi current is 111.5 amps. This can be reduced by the motor that we're using. We're using a pretty high draw motor at the moment, which I probably wouldn't recommend. I'd probably recommend something like a brushless motor, or even one of the Lonix motors work really good for these. You've also got your average auto current, so basically it's just telling you how much power it's drawing. Your Mosfet temperatures, so if you're using this for a long time, it will show you what your temperatures are. If it gets too hot, it can basically tell you, hey, unplug me, I need to cool down for a little bit. You've also got your signal strength, so how far away you are from the Mosfet itself. Your power up time, so this has been on for 7 minutes at the moment, and then your battery and voltage settings. Battery voltage meter. So this will show you how much charge you still have left in that battery. So we have 12.5 volts left, basically, of charge in that battery. So what we're going to go over here with the little eye in the circle. This is all your information. So from here, you can actually change how the application looks. So if I was in America, you know, I can change it to Fahrenheit, which we don't need to because we live in Australia. Dark theme, I can turn that on and off. I prefer the dark theme, it's a lot easier on the eyes. So you can actually turn off connection by fire select. So this here, if you put it into safe, there will be no power going through the Mosfet kind of thing. You got sound signalization, full auto limit, also overspin detection. I recommend keeping that on for high rate of fire builds. That way you know if it's overspinning. You got all your different application versions, hardware versions, all that. That's not really important for the average Joe. That's more so for people that want to code, stuff like that. And also just to let you know, hey, you've got the latest version. You can also change your device name from here, change your device password, update the device. So basically this will actually update the firmware on the Mosfet, as well as installation manual, online link, the Jefftron website, as well as their support email. Alright guys, that pretty much wraps up the application, so we're going to head back to the video, and that's it.
Alright guys, that's it for this tech talk. But if you guys enjoyed, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe as well. Really helps us out. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments as well. We'll do our best to try and get back to you. Or even some of the community members might be floating around and be able to help you out with any questions you have. Alright guys, that's it from me. Have a good one.